any kind of thing with fiberglass before, so watched a bunch of YouTube videos and just did the best I could. It's so I got to trim it up, sand it. This one is only the one spot that had a big gouge right there, so now I just gotta hopefully sand that down to make it even so I can get ready to paint it. So that's what we're doing. Alright, it's a lot smoother than what it was, but still feel a little bit right there and there. But the video I watched for the guy that was doing it, he said that it can be kind of, have little dents and stuff because I'm going to use the autofill primer or fill-in primer. So I'm hoping after a primer and then sand again and primer again, when it comes to applying the paint, that won't be as noticeable. But we'll see. Now for this one, I did a horrible job. There was just a little fine line crack there. But it was also on the inside, so I was worried it was just going to break off. Here, as you can see, there's a big chunk missing. Maybe you can see it. So I did my best to do it from both sides, thinking I can just come along here and cut. This is the one, the way the cowling attaches to the back, it has to kind of line up with the piece that holds the cowling. So this little piece was like basically breaking off. So I did the best I could to try to get it. It's really hard using just a little thin strip, especially when you're trying to get it right on an edge, as you can see, like right here. So I left some that hopefully I can just cut off. And then this piece, I don't know what exactly. I mean, it looked like it curved around here, so that's why I did it. But it goes way up here too, so I did it on both sides. So I'm gonna try to cut that out. Hence the word try. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I don't know. Or I don't know how. It's not great, but I think we'll see how the sanding comes out. I'm sure people who actually do fiberglass work are probably laughing at me. But I don't know. See what happens when I use the primer and try to clean it up. Of course, how it looks after it's painted. Okay, gonna get them cleaned up to get ready to put on the first coat of primer. And I noticed a couple spots that I need to hit with the sander, but I also need to throw it on the back, make sure it fits, since I did that little back side, and that kind of has to fit into a little area for it to close properly, and the front where I reshaped the corners in that one piece. So I'll just wipe them down right quick, and then we'll take them over to the pontoon. Needed the right tool for the job. Show you what I'm doing. As you can see, there's like a lump right there because the piece didn't come all the way down, or the one that did, it didn't hold, it had a bunch of air, so I cut it underneath it, so I cut out. But there's a crack right here, so I don't really want to remove that piece, but you know what, I think I'm just going to leave it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So good. Okay, so I got it closed. Looks like it closes fine. And I just jinxed myself. Sorry, I know I'm bouncing you around quite a bit. There we go. So that's the part that's going to be the most noticeable. But I think it's going to look alright after it's primed and painted. I hope so. And then of course that part, but like I said, time to shoot them. Well, I'm gonna clean them up some more, and I got some more sanding now that I see it attached, and then I'm gonna shoot some primer on them. Okay, I'm gonna spray these off. I'm gonna use the pressure washer, well, not with it turned on, just the wand, so it has a little bit of force, but not enough to do any damage. I just want to make sure I got all the dust and everything. I've already wiped them down, but just to be safe, I'll spray them off, and then I'm gonna let them sit for a while, make sure they're dry. I'll probably wipe them off again, and then do the primer. Okay, now I'm just going to set them up to dry and then primer them. So I went ahead to put primer on them, but I ran out of primer, so I had to get more, and I didn't record that because the battery died in this old camera. But I got some more paint and batteries charged, and here we go. So I'm using filler primer to try to fill in some of the gaps and cracks, but it's not looking that great. So let me show you what it looks like after using that primer. It's but there's the spot where I had to fill in the big gap. So you can see where it's kind of, I don't know if the camera's really picking it up, but it's kind of chunky, but I got to sand it again. That's what everyone online suggested after you primer it. And then this one, there's a section that you can really notice. And that top part, I just don't know really what to do, because there's, you can kind of see some of the crack, but right there it's cracked pretty bad, so I want to leave that, but maybe I can sand it down more. I got a new thing of sanding pads to put on my little sander, like 60 grit, so hopefully that'll cut it down a lot more and be not so noticeable. Gonna use this 220 sandpaper block to try to get out some of the imperfections. I think I just made more of a mess, but that's what everyone says to do on the YouTube videos. When I read online, I guess it did smooth some of the stuff out, but I'm gonna wipe it off and put another coat of primer on it. Alright, I'm going to let that dry and then do the same thing to the other one and then put some more primer on it, but I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. Okay, so I went ahead and sprayed some more primer on the parts I had to use the 60 grit sandpaper, and I also went back around and kind of fine-tuned with the 220, but in cleaning it off I found a bunch of rough patches, so right now I'm just gonna go ahead and knock those out before I add another thing of primer. So I'll show you that. Okay, there are some spots I'm not really worried about, like where the decals are going to go, because I'm having some made. Alright, so I got this one done. I'm going to fine sand the other one so that way I can just spray them together. Obviously that one was a lot worse. That's the one I had to do the majority of the work to, and it's got that little front face, but there's gonna be 3 stickers on that, so I'm kind of done with it. So. Well, I think that's going to be it for primer. Should have remembered. The problem is black really shows everything, so I can definitely tell. Let me take you off for a minute. I'll take you with me so you can see. I can really tell where the filler primer helped, but there's still all kind of scratches and stuff. Plus that stuff's really coarse. That's why you gotta sand it off. But my patch job is definitely noticeable, but also every little scratch you can see. Man, it never fails. Every time I record, there's cars that come by, and we don't even live on a busy road. It's unbelievable. Anyway, so it's basically the first coat, and we're gonna let it dry. I'm gonna go ahead and sand down the other one and put a coat on that. Here's where that hatch was, where that was broken. I had to overlap it and also go on the inside. I wish that would have came out better, but it is what it is. I don't really know what I'm doing anyway, so we'll see. Show you this right quick. This one was the real bad one. Oops, sorry. I don't know how well it's going to come up on camera, but there's a spot I really wish I would have put some fiberglass on. I mean, the filler, I'm really surprised. At first I didn't like that stuff, but it definitely was a lot bigger gouge before, so obviously it worked, but just probably not as much as I needed to just do a patch. But we'll go ahead and spray this one down and see what happens. Pretty happy how this back part turned out. It's not great, but it holds that piece in there, so that's all I really needed it for. Alright, we're gonna let that sit up and dry. So while those are drying, I gotta take this little back piece off so that way I can paint it. I've already sanded it down, just needs to be primered and then add some paint to it. So I don't really want to disconnect that hose. That's I don't know what it's really called, but it's like the pee hole. After the water goes to the engine, it shoots it back out. And that's on there with a zip tie. I'm just worried if I pull it off, I'm never going to get it back on that little piece for the outside. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So let me think about it for a minute. Okay, so I think I am just going to snip that zip tie and pull that hose off. So I just really don't feel like having to tape up all the engine to make sure paint doesn't get in it. So I guess I'm gonna go grab a razor blade and knock that out. Okay, so I went to get a razor blade, then I thought I don't want to use that just in case I slip and cut that little hose. I don't want to have to reattach a new hose or have to figure out how to. So anyway, I got little scissors. So yeah, let's go get this painted. You can probably tell that primer is different. That's that self-etching that I actually used on the aluminum part of the pontoon boat, but I only got a little bit of that filler left, and I'm worried after I sand down the cowling that's really bad, I'm gonna have to use some more of that filler. So I really don't want to spend whatever it was, $10 for a whole nother can. I know I may sound cheap, but I already spent too much money on this pontoon boat anyway, so I'm trying to just do it as cheap as possible, and I'm not trying to make it look professional. Alright, we'll let that dry, and then hopefully the cowlings will be dry so we can go ahead and put another coat on them, and then we'll spray that one down with its first coat of the black enamel.